We were very honored when Editions Hortus asked us to contribute an album to their collection of the music of World War I. And we settled on the sonatas by Philippe Gaubert, Elgar and Fairchild.
And it was a very natural choice actually. When we read through those sonatas, we immediately loved them, and there was barely any discussion. We just knew we wanted to record those three pieces. Before we actually hear the Gaubert is actually quite hard for violinists because it's really written as almost as a flute sonata, although it's a violin sonata.
I would say of the three works that we play, it's the most meaty work. It's very romantic in its approach. These three sonatas were written during World War I, 1914 to 18. And you can, especially in the Elgar and the Fairchild sonatas, you can hear the influence of the war.
The Fairchild has a lot of French influence.
He was a diplomat and traveled around a bit in the Middle East, and then he settled in Paris. And he must have heard Ravel's piano trio in Paris because there's a lot of quotations and there's a lot of influence from Ravel in this work. It's a true masterwork.
We're very thrilled to be the first recording of the Fairchild Sonata.
It's surprising that during times of these atrocities, people can write such beautiful music. There's a real contradiction between the surroundings and their creations.
Something about the slow movements that is just very beautiful and very hopeful.
Elgar was famous as an orchestral composer. He only started writing chamber music towards the end of his life. There's the piano quintet, a string quartet, and then this violin sonata. And you hear a very mature, established composer. He had a certain restraint in his approach to this piece.
He is very particular and very precise in his marking, but at the same time, I think the goal is to sound almost like an improvisation. There's a lot of freedom in the sonata, a lot of rubato, a lot of change of tempo, sometimes from one measure to another, and that when we play exactly what's written actually sounds like it's very natural.
It's a very romantic work. It's an imaginative work as well, and he dedicated it to a friend of his who then passed away before he could finish the sonata. It reveals a composer at the top of his game in terms of knowing what he wants acoustically. Benjamin Dale was active in the military during World War I, and he was captured, and he actually wrote the Prunella, the last piece on the disc, in an intern camp. And it's fascinating to think how he would have written this, probably without a piano, possibly without much paper to write on. You can sense that these composers were, perhaps because of the atrocities of the war, trying to cling on to something that could bring them back to better times. as much as the music can stand on its own, if you know the background story of where they were in their lives and the political circumstances of the times, it's hard to disassociate that afterwards with your interpretation of the piece. It's something that sticks with you.